What is up, Watch fam? I am Christian from Theo and Harris, and today I am at London Jewelers' Oculus location with Anna. She's behind the camera picking her teeth because she was eating nuts. Look at her face! Today I'm going to be taking a look at 7 pieces from the Oris showcase here at London Jewelers' Oculus location. It is right over there. Oris is an interesting brand. They've been around since 1904. They were founded in Holstein, Switzerland. Nope, that's Jersey. Please try Switzerland. And they've had a successful 115 years. They introduced their Big Crown pointer in 1938. Their first automatic watch with a power reserve in 52 and in 65 in the wake of the Submariner and Zodiac Seawolf. Their Diver series, which I still contend to this day, might have produced some of the most attractive dive watches of the 20th century. There were a few awkward decades around Y2K, but I guess who really wasn't doing ugly things back then? Anyway, in 2016, Oris reinvented themselves under new management, and since things have been up, like way up. The brand, through some really well-developed reissues specifically, has become one that people flock to. That said, Oris still isn't there yet. They still need some help and some time. Their website is atrocious, and their catalog is a little bit confusing for a couple of different reasons. But despite those hurdles, Oris is still a brand today that almost all watch geeks, including myself, are rooting for. So let's get into the first subcategory here today. Their Big Crown pointer date. Why is it called the Big Crown? Because the crown is big. Like I mentioned, this watch was originally introduced in 1938, but this iteration, which isn't the only they've redone since, is really well done. First thing that jumps out, the variation of dial colors. Right here we have a burgundy, we've got a gray taupe kind of military color, we've got a beautiful blue, and we've got a mint. The watch comes in 2 different sizes, 40 and 36. The 36 is marketed as a woman's watch, and frankly, I think it's beautiful. I'm right now wearing a 36mm Datejust from 1977. There's nothing effeminate about it, and frankly, and I'll show you some wrist shots of the 40mm Oris, looks great. The 36 is amazing. The only thing that is specifically effeminate about it is how the strap tapers. It's tapering down to either maybe a 10mm buckle, which is absolutely a female or feminine look, but the watch itself fits perfectly at 36. So if you have like a 7-inch wrist or below, or if you're used to vintage watches, I would absolutely consider the size. The details, beyond the dial colors, which are fantastic. First thing that comes out is the coin edge bezel. It's beautiful. It doesn't happen anymore. Little do most watch enthusiasts know, even the Datejust didn't start off with a fluted bezel. It was a coin edge. This is a specifically, early half of the 20th century, so like 1930s into the late 40s, that this style was prominent. I still think it's beautiful today. It's so subtle, subtly textured, big fan. And the Big Crown as well. I just criticized in a previous video JLC's super small crown on some of their master controls. It wasn't the worst thing, but I don't know. A crown is supposed to be the only, in most watches, the only part that you actually manipulate. So I think that it's important to have a watch that, has a sizable crown. That being said, of course, on a small watch, the big crown would throw off the delicacy, throw off the refinement, but here it's great. The watch was originally marketed to pilots, so the Big Crown was particularly important, just like it is in IWC's original pilot's watches. You can't really manipulate a crown with gloves on specifically, or in a hurry if there's a super small crown. The Big Crown has a big function. I believe the style of hands here is called cathedral hands. I called them chapel about 6 seconds ago, and Anna corrected me. Again, super old world, but they're bringing it into modernity. The bracelet is even quite nice. A little bit, loose, not so tight, but well done. I wouldn't even consider this watch on a bracelet. I would absolutely do it on one of their straps. That being said, got some really cool straps. Right? It looks like the straps they offer their watches on look like straps you would change out for. You know what I mean? They look like straps you'd have to buy like separately, meaning they're like super style forward, but Oris does it right. So great collection. These watches come in at 1,600 bucks on strap, 1,800 bucks on bracelet. Frankly, I think that it's such a well-executed watch. I think that's, for under $2,000, you know, there are brands for 4 and 5 that are giving you less. Moving on to the Diver 65. It is called the Diver 65 because their original divers were introduced in 1965. And this piece absolutely, not just respects, but I mean, what's the word? Of course, it's a copy of the watch. It's a reissue, but not all reissues are as well executed in the details. It's a really good piece. Let's jump in. The dial is incredibly funky, and here's what's impressive to me. The original divers were in 36 millimeters in size, and they jumped these up to 40 millimeters. But what happens a lot of the time when, you know, brands, you know, reintroduce vintage dials, vintage watches in larger sizes, is the proportions are lost. For example, it's very hard to fit a Speedmaster, which is a 42 millimeter watch, in a 38 millimeter case, because it's just too much going on and the dials become too compact. The same thing, but the opposite, would happen here. The 36 millimeter Orises, the original ones, the dial wasn't crammed, it was perfect. But here, when they expanded it, it didn't seem spacey. So that's impressive. And while the design is reissued, it's still not easy to achieve that. So kudos to you, Oris. The bezel is beautiful here. They don't use the same, oh, that clicked well. That was a nice click, listen. Nice, crunchy. They don't use the same fat font that they used in the mid-1960s, but, and again, small detail, I really like that even the, not just the insert, but the bezel itself is blacked out. I think it just looks beautiful. They offer this watch on an Oyster bracelet, on a Tropic strap, and I believe on a NATO strap as well. My favorites are the Tropic and the Oyster, definitely. And here's another dial combo. Subtle. I don't even think you would notice it if I didn't tell you, but this dial, while it has the black center, is actually blue around the edges. And the blue, again, while not so noticeable, helps the lume pop, right? The blue and that green just totally work together super well. Definitely the color combo here, while not totally noticeable, adds. Absolutely adds. And once you know, you can tell. I've said it before, I'll say it again. I think that Oris's Oyster bracelet is phenomenal. They've executed this kind of homage to the Rolex rivet, which is what Oris used back in the 60s, so well. What they do that Tudor doesn't, and Tudor also makes a rivet, is the thinness. The thinness and the taper. That's a vintage bracelet. It doesn't expand like the vintage ones, but the proportions, the level of delicacy, perfect. Tropic strap too. I'm not a NATO guy. There's not a NATO guy. Sorry, guys. Retail price is 2,100 bucks on bracelet. I guess 1,900 bucks on strap. 1,850 on strap. It's just awesome. It is, I guess, the perfect opposite to the Big Crown. If you don't like one, you definitely like the other. Or you like both, like I do. Now another Oris new release, also a diver. This model is called the Diver 65. Wait, they're both called the Diver 65, but they're different watches. That makes no sense. The only differences here are the dial configurations, color, and size options. This model is offered in 36, 40, and 42, so I definitely do appreciate that. I also love that they have a second diver model. I think it's great. Obviously, there are fundamental similarities like the bezel. The case even is the same, the hands are the same. But I just don't think that you can introduce something with an entirely new dial configuration and call it the same model. It just makes no sense. Overall, Oris is kicking under $2,000. I'm extremely impressed with their colors, with their size options, with the details, coin edge bezel, the vintage dials, the rivet bracelet. Everything is honestly terrific. They've started to go in a new direction with their Pro Pilot, and we'll make a whole video on that in the future. But this vintage reissue collection, it's just impressive. I don't think that so many brands, especially at this price point, really under 5,000, are delivering so consistently. And Oris has a lot to be proud of. Again, their website is crap, their model lines are too confusing. Why do you have two Diver 65s? It makes no sense. But I guess none of that matters. If you can get a great watch for 1,800 bucks, Thanks again to you guys for watching, and thank you so much to the folks over at London Jewelers, our authorized retail partner. Their boutique here at the Oculus carries Rolex, carries IWC, JLC, Tag Heuer, carries Tudor, and of course Oris, among some other brands as well that I missed. So if you are based in New York City, come downtown to the Oculus and check them out. Maybe you'll even run into me and Anna. See you guys soon. Showcase here at the London Jewelers Oculus, right over there. What am I saying? Pluck them right. That said, Oris just want Chinese food. I'm like 50 minutes from Chinese food, and I'm there. And I'm going to talk for a second here about a watch that I love very much. All TNH fans know I love very much, but I haven't been giving much time to recently, just because I guess you get so consumed with everything else, and the Datejust, particularly second.